All right. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us. And today we're going to be going over how to set up live transfers within your boberdoo system. And to get started, phone routing is already available within your system by default, and you just need to set up the certain functions to get phone routing live. So from a high level, phone routing works very similarly to web leads in terms of the logic used to route the lead to the buyer. So simply put, the logic for boberdoo is when the lead comes in, boberdoo will attempt to match the lead to your buyers based on those filter sets you create, and then it will match to the buyer based on highest priority or based on the round robin basis. So that logic is the same for both calls and web leads. We just need to set up your buyers with those filter sets. So let's take a look at how boberdoo routes live transfers. So live transfers involve both the transfer of a call and a data portion of the lead. So we need to set your system up to be able to transfer both of those parts of the live transfers. So these are the steps for live transfers through boberdoo. So either a lead calls the phone number that you are marketing, or your call center is making an outbound call. Then your call center rep will gather the lead's information and post that information into boberdoo. Your call center rep, the live transfer rep, will then dial your boberdoo number while he has the lead on the phone, and then the system will match that call to the appropriate buyer based on the lead's origin phone number. And then as the buyer answers and purchases the call, the boberdoo system will locate that matching data lead that the live transfer rep filled out, and it will deliver the matching data lead to whoever has bought the call. And then your call center rep will introduce that lead to the lead buyer, and they will basically hand off that call, and then the system will merge those two calls. So the lead is talking to the buyer, and then the live transfer rep will drop from the call. So that's basically the major steps that are needed to be taken for a live transfer to be completed. That's the typical way that we do it through boberdoo. Sometimes sometimes our clients will do it differently, but that's the main way that a live transfer will flow through the system. So, why are live transfers beneficial for a lead generation company? Well, first of all, it's good for all parties involved. It's good for the lead buyer because live transfers, it's already a pre-qualified lead, and there's virtually 100% contact rate with the lead. It's good for the lead seller because you can sell live transfers at a high price. And it's also good for the lead because they're getting that immediate feedback from the lead buyer relating to their issue. So live transfers are a great feature that a lot of our clients here at boberdoo are starting to take advantage of. So now let's get into the system and start doing these major steps needed to set up live transfers. So first we're going to set up two sources so that we can get both the call and the data lead into your system. Then we're going to create a phone campaign and order a phone number. And then we'll also set up your buyers to receive the live transfer. So let's get into the system and let's quickly look at the settings and then lead types. Loading kind of slowly here, but we'll get through it. So settings and lead types, where we can view the different lead types in your system. And one thing to note here is that the phone services icon here is lit green, meaning it's activated. So since both of these lead types need to be activated, and since they are, this will tie the data lead type to the inbound phone lead type, to complete that live transfer process, so that once your buyer buys the call, this will allow your system to also send them the data lead type, which is sitting in manual review. It will send that data to whoever has bought the call. So in order to get the call and the data lead into your system, we need to set up a source so that we can track and segment those incoming, those incoming portions of the live transfer. So to do that, we go to Source Vendor Settings, and then we need to make sure we're, first let's set up the inbound phone source so that we can receive those calls. So we click on this left side, we click on the inbound phone and then Add New Source. All right, and again, a source, this is your main tracking variable that you use to know where the lead is coming from. So since live transfers involve both the transfer of a web lead and a call, two sources must be created so that each of these portions of the live transfer can get into your system. So we just we're adding a new inbound phone source. So later on, we will assign this source to your phone number so that you know where these calls are coming in from. So when setting up a source, it works very similarly to setting up a source for web leads. And the good thing about inbound phone is you don't have to worry about a lot of these switches. There are a lot of options here. There's about 30 options. But for inbound phone, what you need to worry about setting up is the source name. So this is, this could be an example of, your live transfer call center representative number 1, say. So that way okay, we're getting calls from this call center representative. And then you have your vendor, so your associated call center who you might be buying leads from. Or if you're generating your own leads, you can just click None there. You also must make sure the source is active. And then you can skip manual review and the lead QC options. These are only applicable to web leads. So you can skip by these, and then you just need to set up the lead cost. So if you're generating your own leads, you can keep this at a cost of 0. Or if you're buying leads from a third party, you can negotiate that price here with them. So maybe you're buying these leads for $10. But other than that, setting up the source, vendor, making sure it's active, and setting up the cost, you don't have to worry about setting up these options or anything under lead cost. All these options here, you can just leave it default because they're only applicable to web leads. So that is really, that's quickly setting up a source for inbound phone. And then later on, we'll assign the new phone number to this source so that we can, track where these calls are coming from. So that will allow you to start getting calls into the system. Then you click Add New, and you can come back and edit this source at any time. All right. So now that we set up a source for inbound phone, next step we want to do is to set up a source to receive the data portion of the live transfer. So this is going to be the form that your call center rep is filling in as they're speaking with the lead and qualifying that lead. They'll be filling out a form and then sending that form into your boberdoo system, so that can also go to who buys the call. So we need to set up a live transfer data source, or whichever lead type you're dealing with. You need to set up the data lead type for that lead. You need to set up the data source for that lead type. So for our example, we're going to use this live transfer data lead type. And then we can click Add New Source. And setting up this source is pretty similar to the inbound phone source we just created. There's just one major difference. We need to make sure that Okay, so the big major difference for this data source is that we need to make sure it's set in manual review check, so that when the lead comes in, it will be sent to this manual review, and that will keep it held there until the call comes in and is sent to the buyer. And then once the call is sent to the buyer, then this data lead will be sent to that same buyer. So again, you can set up the source name, the associated vendor, making sure it's active, making sure it's in manual review, and then setting up that cost once again. But other than that, again, you don't have to worry about lead QC check. That's just a lead quality check. And then everything under the lead cost, you can leave that at default. So this will allow that data portion that your live transfer rep is filling in. This will allow that to come into your system. All right. So that is basically setting up the two sources to allow, the call and the data portion of the lead to get into the system. And one thing I did want to mention, if your call center that is submitting your leads does not have the ability to fill out a form or create their own form, we do have this nice little forms manager here that you can build out a form for the call center, and then you can send this form to them, and they can fill the form out to post those leads into your system. So we do have some instructional videos on how to set up a form like this, so we're not going to go through that right now, but basically you add new form and you can just follow the steps to create a form. So that's just a nice little feature in case your call center doesn't have the ability to make their own form. All right, so that is setting up sources, and so now let's move on to the next level of organization, which is setting up a campaign and ordering a phone number. So we do that by going to the phone routing tab here. All right, and when you click on phone routing, it will bring you to this page, which is a list of all your campaigns. So what a campaign is an organizational tool that you can use to track your incoming calls. So most of our clients will set up a campaign by either vertical or marketing method. So for vertical, for example, you could do auto insurance. You could create an auto insurance campaign, and then however many phone numbers you have that are bringing in auto insurance leads, you can assign those phone numbers to this campaign. So that way you know that, okay, all my auto insurance leads will be coming in through this campaign. So to add a new campaign, you simply click Add New Campaign here. And then the campaign name, this is visible to you and your vendors if you do provide your vendors with logins. The internal name, this is only visible on your end, so you can do whatever you want with the internal name. And then the vertical, this will allow you to group your calls based on lead type. And you can also use this to filter on the leads page based on lead type later on, which I'll show you later on the leads page. And then you can also add notes to this campaign. All right. And when you click Add New, that will add it to the list of your existing campaigns. And now we want to add a phone number to the campaign. So to order a phone number through boberdoo, you can click Order Phone Numbers right here. And with boberdoo, we have a pool of existing toll-free numbers. So these will be 800 numbers, 888 numbers, 855 numbers, and you can order up to 10 at the same time. So how it works is when you select the amount of phone numbers you want to order, when you click Submit, it will randomly generate a list of toll-free numbers for you, and it will provide you with one of those toll-free numbers in our system. But before you order a phone number, there's a few of these options here that let's go over what these are real quick. So we have the welcome message. So this is played when the lead calls the phone number. This is the first thing that will play when you dial that number. So by default, it's set to something like, your call will be recorded for quality verification purposes. But you can also give us an MP3 file that we can make, so we can make the welcome message whatever you would like us to play. You can also choose silence here at this option in case you know that your lead buyer that you're routing the call to, if you know that they already have a welcome message, you can choose silence to avoid the repetition of welcome messages. And then this enter zip code is an example of a custom IVR. So this is just a way to gather additional information so that we can route the lead to your buyers who only accept, callers in this zip code. So basically what this enter zip code will do is when you dial the boberdoo toll-free number that you ordered, it will prompt that caller to enter their zip code. Then we'll use that information to filter and route to your buyers. All right, then we have the music on hold. So this is played while your lead is waiting on the phone, waiting for the buyer to pick up the call. And again, you can send us any MP3 file and we can play whatever music you would like. The default phone number, this is an important one because it's basically the last line of defense. If none of your buyers pick up the call, it will route to the default phone number. So we do need a place to send the call if nobody picks up. So most of our clients will either set their default number as an automated voicemail to take a message from the lead, or they'll send this to a call center to answer the phone and collect, information from that lead and maybe convert that lead to a data lead. It's really up to you where you want to send your calls if none of your buyers pick up the phone. So that's what the default phone number does. Here we can automatically assign a new phone to a campaign that you've created. You can also automatically assign a source that you've created to this phone number. So earlier we went through setting up that inbound phone source. And once you do that, you'll be able to see that source in the drop down here. So you can assign that source to the phone number you're ordering here. All right, and then we have these two options. So automatically enable caller ID check. This is 2 cents per query, and it will attempt to show up what's on caller ID to give you some additional information for that call. So it could either be the lead's phone number or the lead's name. And then duplicate check. This is an important one because it works differently for phone calls than web leads. So for web leads, if a duplicate comes in and we reject that lead, if for web leads, if a duplicate comes in and the system knows it's a duplicate, the system will automatically reject that lead. Whereas for phone calls, if this duplicate check is checked like this, when a lead calls in and if they're routed to a buyer, and if that same lead calls into the same number, they'll be routed to the same buyer as before if this is checked. But if this is unchecked, if a lead calls in to the same number for a second time, they'll come in as a totally new lead and be routed to potentially a new buyer based on, it will just come in as a new lead and route to your buyers based on the filter sets. So that's an important one. If you do want to keep that checked, that will save you time for you and your buyer during that duplicate reconciliation period, since your buyer isn't going to want to pay for the same lead twice. And occasionally with phone calls, a lead will want to call in twice and maybe talk to the same buyer that they did before. So if you have this duplicate check enabled, they'll be routed to that same buyer. All right, and then when you click Submit Order, again, that will randomly generate one of the toll-free numbers that is available in our system. Okay, so now that we've ordered a phone number, let's go back to the campaigns page and assign the phone number to the campaign that we've created. All right, so let's just stick with this auto insurance example here. So to add a new phone number to this campaign, we can click on the Show Phones icon here. And as you can see, there are already 3 phone numbers assigned to this campaign. And we also can see that there's no available phone numbers no more available ones. So I'm going to unassign this phone number first. And now you can see, okay, here's an unassigned phone number. And to assign this phone number to the campaign, all you have to do is click this little icon here, assign phone to the auto campaign from pool, and that will do it. So that will assign the phone number to the campaign. So to kind of reiterate, sorry, it's moving slowly right now, loading pretty slowly. But to reiterate the process of a live transfer, so once you assign this phone number to the campaign, the phone number is live, and sorry, my connection went down real. All right, let's just keep moving on. All right, so when your call center rep is on the phone with the lead, once they qualify that lead and they've sent the data portion of the lead into manual review, then they will call this boberdoo number, and then the call will come into boberdoo and use the lead's origin phone number to route to your buyers who can accept that call. And once you order a phone number, the number is live within about 1 minute only. All right, and also you can come back, as you can see, you can come back, and for each phone number, you can assign the welcome message, the default, the music on hold, the default phone number, caller ID check, a duplicate check, and you can also change the associated source for each phone number at any time. All right, so that was ordering a phone number and creating a campaign, and also we set up 2 sources so that we can receive calls and okay, sorry about that. So we've set up 2 sources so that we can receive both the calls and the data portion of the lead into the system. And we've also set up a campaign and ordered a new phone number. So now let's go to the partner side and set them up with filter sets so that they can receive these live transfers. So we do that by going to the Partners tab. And just like web leads, in order for a buyer to receive the live transfer, first of all, they must be active, they must have available funds, and they must have 2 matching filter sets. So the main thing to note for live transfers, since live transfers use the phone inbound, they use the inbound phone routing filter set to route the call, and then the data portion follows that. So even though we need to create a filter set for the data portion of the live transfers, we will only consider the filtered settings in the inbound phone filter set to determine who the call and the data is sent to. So for a partner to receive a live transfer, we need to set up 2 filter sets, and we do that by going to this little funnel icon here, which is lead filter sets. All right, and then we need to select the drop-down, and let's first create an inbound phone filter set. When you click Add New, all right. So if you've set up a filter set before for web leads, there's a few differences for the inbound phone filter set. Wait for it to load. All right. So setting up an inbound phone filter set, we have the filter set name, which is only visible on your end, so you can name it however you would like. You have the lead price. So this is the amount the buyer is paying for the call. So for lead price, since we are creating two filter sets, you can choose to front load the entire price on the call or back load the entire price on the web portion, or you can split the price 50-50. It's really up to you how you would like to price it. So let's just say for this example, we're going to front load the entire cost on the call. So here we're going to charge $55 for the call and then $0 for the web data portion. The partner ring to number, so this is the number that the buyer will answer the phone with. Maximum concurrent calls, this is the number of simultaneous calls that your buyer is willing to receive. So for example, if you're selling to an individual agent and they can only take one call at a time, of course you'd want to set this to 1. But if you're selling to a call center and they have 15 reps, you can set this to 15. So what this does, if a call comes in and it sees that this buyer has already reached the limit, then the system will route the call to the next available buyer. So that's an important one because we don't want to keep the lead waiting on the phone if nobody can answer it. The inbound phone routing per minute fee, this is an optional fee you can extend to your buyer. Some of our clients elect to charge a higher price with no per minute fee, and then other clients will choose to charge a per minute fee with a lower price. So again, that's up to you how you want to price it. Minimum number of minutes for a successful call. This is the minimum amount of time that a call can last before the billing transaction takes place, and it is in decimal format, so 30 seconds would be 0.5. So for this example, if a call goes to your buyer and they're talking to the lead for only 20 seconds, then this call will not be sold and it will be declined because it didn't last past this minimum buffer. Whereas if the call lasts over 30 seconds, it will be sold to this buyer and it will be successful. All right, then we have the option to record phone calls or not. And then this use default phone routing for failed calls. So if this is not selected, this buyer will automatically be charged for the call if it is sent to them. So how default phone routing works is if you have this checked, basically the ring timeout would be 15 seconds. And how default routing works is if the lead matches to this filter set, it will call this buyer for 15 seconds. And if they don't pick up, it will route to the next available buyer in line. But if you have this selected at no, there is no ring timeout, so it will ring to this partner either until they pick up the phone or until the lead hangs up. And it's basically this buyer's responsibility to pick up the phone from this point. So that's a helpful one in case you have, what we call trouble buyers who you send them a lot of calls, but they're not picking up the phone. You can automatically charge them for those calls you're sending. All right, moving on, we have the whisper message. This is not available for in anybody else's system yet. This is still in testing phases, so we'll skip that. You can add notes to the filter set, the accepted lead sources, the delivery setup. Then we have, priority, exclusivity, and your lead limit per day, week, and month. And then we have your days and times you accept leads. So this is particularly important for inbound phone because since your buyer physically does need to be there to accept these calls, you want to set these times to the right times that they accept calls. So if they only accept calls between 9 to 5, you can set that. You can set those time of day and day of week here. Say it's 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. That's how you set that up. And you can also associate a certain price to each time. So if you wanted to charge more for weekend calls, you can do that here. And this price will override the lead price here. All right, whatever. All right, and then now moving on, we get down to the actual filterable options. So by default, every inbound phone filter set will create. You can filter by origin area code, by terminating phone. So this is your boberdoo number. You can filter by state that this buyer accepts, and also by the campaign that this buyer accepts. So if they only accept home improvement calls, you can select that home improvement campaign. Or if you leave it deselected, this filter will consider all campaigns. Similarly for state, if you leave it unselected, it will consider all these states. Leaving it unselected is basically the same as selecting all. And then here's the zip code filter. So this is that example of the custom IVR we talked about earlier. So when the lead punches in their zip code, here is where you can fill in the zip codes that this buyer accepts. And again, for custom IVRs, we can create really any IVR. It doesn't have to be just zip code. You can create a ticket, and we could create a custom IVR for really any question you'd like to ask the lead before, so that we can use that information to route to your buyers. All right, so that was setting up an inbound phone filter set. So you can click Save, and then come back to edit the filter set at any time. So now that we've created that, let's create the data portion of the live transfer so that we can also send the data portion to this buyer. So we do that by clicking Live Transfer Data and then Add New Filter Set. So the important thing to note about this filter set is that this filter set must be left open, so nothing prevents the data portion from going to the buyer. So since we are using that inbound phone filter set to route to the buyer, once that call is routed to the buyer, then we want the data portion going to that same buyer who accepted the call. So that is why we want to leave these filterable options basically open. Because if you only selected Arizona or Colorado, for example, and if your call went to your buyer, if the call went to the buyer let's say the lead was from Connecticut, and the call went to the buyer who accepted that call. But if you have the data portion of the filter set only accepting leads that come in from Arizona or Colorado, then that will mean that the data portion of the lead will not go to that same buyer who bought the call. So that's why you want to basically keep these totally open so that the data portion won't have anything preventing it from going to that buyer who bought the call. All right, so again, setting up this filter set, you can set up the name, the lead price, and for our example, we front loaded the price on the call, so the web portion will cost $0. And then you have your accepted lead sources and the delivery setup. So this is where you can set up the data to be delivered to the buyer, and you can create a custom delivery to post to the buyer's CRM, or you can fill out the email here, and it will send that data to the buyer's inbox. But yeah, again, everything else, like priority, exclusivity, lead limit per day, you'd want to keep this all open. And even the days and times you accept leads, you can just keep that at default, keep it open so that the data will be sent to that same buyer who accepted the call. And yeah, so then again, you can click save, and you can come back and edit the filter set at any time. All right, nice. So that was setting up a partner with 2 filter sets to receive the call and the data portion of the live transfer. So remember, your buyers must be active, have available funds, and also have a matching filter set in order to receive the calls. So now that we've set up the incoming side of the call and the receiving side of the call with your partners, let's take a look at where it all comes together on the leads page. So this is the last page that I wanted to cover today. So with live transfers, you're going to, since there is the transfer of the web lead and the inbound phone lead, you can check both leads pages to basically see the real-time view of all your incoming leads. So first, let's check out the live transfer data. Or first, let's start with the inbound phone leads page. So this is a real-time view of all your incoming calls. And taking a minute to load. Sorry about that. All right, so this is a real-time view of all your incoming calls. For every call that comes in, it will show who it attempted to, who it was matched to, how long the call was for. You can also listen to the recording. It will show the vertical, so you can filter by vertical here to see all your auto insurance calls or all your home improvement calls. It will also show the origin phone number. So that's the lead's phone number. And then this is the number that they called in at, which is your toll-free number. And then for each call that comes in, it will either be matched, unmatched, or declined. So for a matched lead, such as this example here, it will show who it was bought by and at what price. And you can go into this phone services icon here and listen to the recording. So here's the recording here. And so this one does not have a recording. For some reason, maybe the call didn't last long enough. But oh, there it is. Yeah. So there you go. You can listen to the recording. All right. And if a lead is unmatched, such as this one here, that means either it didn't match to any of your buyers, or it rang to your buyers, but none of them picked up. So it went to the default phone number. And again, you can listen to the recording there, but it will just basically play the ringing. And then now let's go to the live transfer data lead type. Let's go to that leads page. So basically the end goal is that you want both the call and the live transfer data portion of the lead to go to the same buyer, of course. So when the data comes into your system, first it will be set into manual review. So you can see these 4 leads are held in manual review. And then once the call is sent to the buyer, then the data will be sent to that same buyer, such as this example here. So we can see, here's the number of the lead. So what I'm going to do, we can see that this lead sold to email buyer for $10. And then if we go back to the inbound phone side, we'll be able to see the corresponding call that was sold to that same buyer. So here it is. And that way you can check, if your calls were both successfully, if your call and the data was sent to that same buyer. And one thing to note, we are working on a little icon that will basically signify if both the data and the call were successfully sent to the same buyer. So we're working on a little icon that would appear somewhere on the leads page here that will just say, okay, it was a success. All right, so that's the leads page, which is where you can view all your incoming calls and all your incoming web leads. So that is basically every section I wanted to cover in detail today. So quickly reviewing what you need to do to get set up for live transfers. First, you need to set up two sources, one for the call and one for the data. And that data source needs to be set to manual review. And we also have the forms manager, which in case your call center that is sending in these calls, if they don't have the ability to create their own form, you can create a form for them so they can post those leads into your system. Then we walked over creating a campaign and ordering a toll-free number and assigning that to the campaign. Then we set up your buyer with both an inbound phone filter set and a data filter set so that they can receive both portions of the live transfer. And then we walked over the leads page where you can view, that all your incoming leads and just details about those leads. So, thank you very much for sitting through this presentation, and that is the high-level overview of how to get your system set up with phone routing and live transfers. So now would be a great time to open it up to any questions that you guys have. I'm going to take it out of presentation mode, so in case you wanted to speak and ask your questions, you can do that. All right. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Let me think.
Did anything particular come up as we were going through the demonstration there?
It all made sense to me. It's kind of, I feel like it's going to be more once I'm actually setting somebody up is when I'm going to have some questions. But yeah, not at all. It's all very clear.
Cool. Hey, well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I guess if you don't have any questions at this point, always you can feel free to email me anytime. I think you have my email that I've probably been sending you invites to these webinars. So
cool. And the whole recording with the audio and the video and everything's just gonna be emailed to us?
Yeah, totally. I'll send that out once it processes here in about an hour. Perfect.
Yeah, then that'll be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining then, and yeah, you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.